Just want to do a quick pre-dawn video, waiting at work to start. Pre-dawn video about why you don't necessarily need to preheat your engine anymore. I'm doing this not because I particularly care about engines, but because it was a piece of information that was forced into my head by someone else, my stepfather, who was autistic and a mechanical engineer who worked on cars and suspension. And I'm basically doing this because, well, a lot of people watched the stitch I did earlier, and I've got the autistic urge to sit there and go, look at the shiny rock I have. I don't particularly like the shiny rock. I don't like its color. I don't like its gleam, but it's still a shiny rock that I'm going to show off. So the reason why you want to preheat your engine, or why preheating engines was a thing, goes back to the very early engines. We're talking like the 1920s and 30s when they added tetralead, lead to gasoline, or to petrol, to benzene, as an anti-knock feature, to prevent the engine from knocking. What is knocking? Okay, knocking is when you have damaged combustion components in an internal combustion engine due to a lack of lubrication. Tetralead coated as the petrol was burnt, the tetralead put a fine coating of lead as a lubricating metal on the inside of your cylinders and your pistons and your head components, so your seals, piston rings, all that kind of stuff, as a initial lubricant. Because what happens is when the engine starts cold and has been set for a few hours, all the oil through gravity falls into the oil pan, the lowest point of the engine. And in the early days, they didn't have high pressure fuel pumps in the car engine. That's a later feature that comes along. So you had to wait for wicking action to get, and a low pressure oil system to spray oil through the engine. And so to prevent the initial damage happening from to the internal combustion engine, they used tetralead to line it. Flash forward to the removal of lead in your engines. They knew this was coming. They knew tetralead was toxic pretty much from day one. The guy that invented it died from lead poisoning. So it was a long time to get rid of it. So we have performance engines and the production of things like high pressure oil pumps that spray oil throughout the entire moving componentry of an engine up into the crankshaft, everywhere. All these things pop up. They start getting tied to the crankshaft, or driven directly from the crankshaft, so that as soon as the engine starts, that pump starts as well. We start getting better oils. Synthetic oil chemistry gets to the point where we are today in 2025, where the oils will actually stick to metal at higher temperatures and for longer durations than we really need. And this leads to another thing. You're not driving a performance engine. You're listening to an autistic apprentice butcher talk about engines on Instagram. You're not driving a high performance vehicle, which is great. This is awesome for you, because it means the tolerances aren't super high. The engine has been designed to run with a bit of slack in the system. So you don't need to start your car for 4 or 5 minutes to have all the componentry oiled before you put it under load, because the engineers that designed that car went, human behavior is to get in the car, turn it on and drive it. We need to have this car run for 250,000 kilometers, which is kind of the industry desire, without it exploding and breaking, with the human desire to get in, press a button to start it and just drive. So your car can. It's designed to. The material science, the chemistry of the oils, the behavioral scientists behind everything of programming your engine have sat there and gone, you're not going to preheat your engine. If you live in an extreme environment such as North Dakota in winter, or you're from the Great Prairies in Canada, or frickin' Siberia, yeah, go preheat your engine. But also, you're not getting advice from Instagram on engines. And again, take everything I've said with a dose of salts. But as a general rule, you don't need to preheat your car before you drive it. That is something that was necessary 100 years ago, but is no longer the case, because we have science and progress and engineers.